Hello friends, welcome back to the shop. Today is Sunday, March 12th, and it is a cold day here in southeastern Pennsylvania. As of 8 o'clock this morning, it is only 20 degrees. And that's cold for this time of year. It's also a bit surprising since it was 60 degrees on Thursday. Of course, it snowed on Friday. Incredible snow. I was during the commute home on Friday, walking to my car. By the time I got to my car, it was completely covered in snow. I mean, it was just these big flakes that were coming down like a blizzard, and it didn't accumulate at all because the ground was too warm. So it really just, it's still on the grass in places like that. But the odd thing, and the reason I'm telling you about it, was that, I got to my car covered in snow. I'm driving home, and within 5 minutes, the sun was so bright that it was heating up the car to the point that I had to crack a window because I had to have the defrosters on because, anyway, it's been very strange weather, and I'm sure that I'm not unique in that. I know that there's been some unusual weather all over the place, but going from a blizzard-like snow to bright, hot sunshine within a 5-minute period is something I never have experienced before. So it was quite unique. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to discuss or give you my impressions of Warhorse Bar. Now I'll be preparing this as I talk, so I'll let you know that I'm going to be smoking this in my Rick Black Morta pipe today. A little Morta pot. I love this pipe. So, some months back, and I'll put a link down below, I did a video on Warhorse Ready Rubbed. And I'd like to be able to say this is the bar version of Ready Rubbed. Go enjoy that, but there's some differences. There's actually some significant differences. This is not just Ready Rub pressed into a bar, and Ready Rub is not just bar rubbed out. It's actually quite a bit more than that. So this is what the tobacco looks like when it arrives. At least half of what it looks like. I've been working off of this side, but it is a very nice dense plug. And one of the things I like about it is that it's a nice dense plug that's also relatively easy to break a piece off of, like so. And it also rubs out quite easily, so I don't want to make too much of a mess here, but just by kind of squishing it around a little bit, you can see it starts to fall apart pretty readily. So you don't have to do a whole lot to get this tobacco into a shape where it's smoking. That's it. Now, it's a little bit more moist than I like tobacco to be, but I'm too lazy to dry it, so I've been smoking it wet. I'm sure that drying it might have a bit of an effect, especially since it's topped, and we'll get to that. But like I said, I'm just a little bit too lazy to go ahead and dry it. So I'm going to pack this in the pipe. And what I do is when I rub it out, I rub it right back into the tin and just leave whatever's rubbed out remaining, the leftovers for the next bowlful, along with the rest of the plug. Okay. So, there we go. Now, the tin note on this is strong. To be fair about it, it is topped, and the topping is really quite evident. Yeah? Wrong pocket. The topping is really quite evident. And it's a bit hard to place. I've talked about this before. it has a note that is reminiscent of Play-Doh. This is when you're smelling the tin, not when you're smoking it. And Play-Doh is a modeling clay that I used to play with when I was a kid. And this tobacco and some other tobaccos have a note to the tin note that reminds me of Play-Doh. It's also very sweet. And I just could not place it. I went on tobacco reviews this morning and looked at some of the reviews, and somebody used the word coumarin when they were talking about the tin note, and that is dead on right. I was really glad that I saw that because that's the missing component that I couldn't place. There's definitely a note of coumarin, but this Play-Doh sweetness is kind of the overriding smell that you get out of the tin. None of that translates to the smoke, so don't be put off by it, but it is a very unique and rather potent tin note. So this tobacco is made by Standard Tobacco of Pennsylvania, the same guys that make Warhorse Ready Rubbed and Bengal Slices, as well as the John Cotton blends. And according to their spiel on the back of the tin, this is dark-fired Kentucky and dark air-cured and mature red Virginias. And yeah, I think that's about right. The topping is referred to as a singular top note, and that's the only information they give. So again, looking through tobacco reviews, and you know, trying to limit it to folks that I trust, it might be Tonkin. It might be, and I've never heard of this before, but somebody said valerian root extract. Apparently valerian root extract produces some Tonkin-like flavors. Now on the initial light, that topping comes through in a very interesting way. So there's some definite sweetness, a little vanilla, and there's an underlying spiciness that comes out pretty quickly. That I assume is coming from the dark-fired Kentucky. To my knowledge, this blend has no perique in it, but it definitely has that sort of nasal spiciness to it, and I'm guessing that's from the dark-fired. You see, I've been through about half of the tin here, and so my impressions are, you know, still somewhat preliminary. But I've had, I don't know, this is probably my 10th bowl, and I can say that I really enjoy this tobacco. Like the Warhorse Ready Rubbed, the dark-fired Kentucky is done right. I personally find blends that have too much dark-fired in them to be non-appealing. I just think that they're one-note blends. Warhorse Ready Rubbed and Warhorse Bar both have just the right amount of dark-fired in them so that you get that flavor, you get that little bit of spiciness, but it's not overpowering, and the Virginias are there. The Virginias are very deep. They are mature red, and that's, you know, giving you sort of a dried fruit figginess, raisiny sort of sweetness, and it plays very nice with whatever the topping is. And the topping will stay with you in this blend. It's there to at least the mid-bowl, maybe 2/3 of the way through, so it doesn't burn off quickly. At least if you don't dry the, I haven't dried it, so I don't know if you lose the. I would assume you lose the topping if you dry it, because the components are probably volatile. And the one negative that I have about this, and it's minor, but I want to give you across the board honest impressions here, is that as you get down to that last quarter of the bowl, it does become a little harsh. A lot of the pleasant flavors are gone at that point. So that last quarter, it can be kind of like you're just smoking to smoke. The pleasure's done by the time you get past 3/4. But the 3/4 you go through to get there are really wonderful. So I strongly recommend, if you like, if you don't mind a top tobacco, if you like dark fired, and if you are someone that enjoys dark Virginias, I strongly recommend trying the Warhorse Bar. It's really a good solid stout tobacco with some very interesting flavor. I will warn you that most of the reviews said that this is rather high in terms of its nicotine hit. I don't know, because I don't get that, but if you're somebody that's very sensitive to nicotine, this may not be for you. So I have about 10 tins of Warhorse Ready Rubbed cellared, because I enjoyed that so much, and I do believe that I'm going to be getting several tins of the Warhorse Bar to cellar alongside of that, because I just really do enjoy it. I should have said at the outset, and I apologize for doing this a bit out of order here, but this is the literature on this says that it is blended in the Old Irish tradition and pressed in the Old Irish tradition. Warhorse, of course, was an Irish tobacco, and it was sold as a bar. And the bar is really interesting. I mean, it looks almost like a bar of soap or something, the old Warhorse Bar. So that's partly what they were trying to recreate. And I think they've done a really good job with the pressing on this one. Sometimes the plugs that I've seen from U.S. companies tend to be a bit crumbly. And certainly, you know, if you look at something like Black Frigate from Cornell and Deal, or even Bengal Slices, which should be a sliced plug from Standard Tobacco, it's not really that highly dense pressed plug. And I've read somewhere, as I was sort of researching this and preparing notes for it, so I don't know where I read this, but I read somewhere that the reason is that the UK blenders that are making plugs have access or own these very powerful steam-powered tobacco presses that they've been using for generations. And of course, we don't have those in the U.S. because, well, first off, because we throw things away too quickly, and secondly, because we haven't been around long enough to have them. So, you know, the companies, U.S. companies just often don't have the ability to press the tobacco to the extent that it's being pressed, I guess. Yeah, as I'm saying that, I don't think I believe it. Because why couldn't we set up a hydraulic press that would do just as well? Yeah. Anyway, I read it somewhere. I thought I'd pass it along, but I decided not to believe it. So. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, I highly recommend trying Warhorse Bar, especially if you like dark fired Kentucky, and if you don't mind a bit of topping on your tobacco. It's quite good. So I hope you're all having a good weekend. As I mentioned, it's Sunday morning, so I'm halfway through the weekend, and it's been great so far. I've gotten a lot of work done. I've been doing a lot of restoration work and some cob modding. So yesterday spent actually most of the day in the shop, which was wonderful. One of the real benefits of starting the business, and I'm almost I'm feeling a little guilty about this, and I don't know if I should say it publicly, but one of the real benefits is that when I go down to the shop, now my wife thinks of it as work rather than play. And that's great. That's really because I still think of it as play. So I got to play all day yesterday. I probably will not play as much today because, all play and no work makes whatever. I've got the Durham Duke Royal Ascot Supreme finished up this past Wednesday. I really enjoyed the feedback on that. Folks really seemed to like the way that pipe turned out. I like the way that pipe turned out. And I've gotten feedback from the Durham Duke. He's also quite pleased with it. So all in all, that series was a success, and I'm quite happy about that. We have a new series starting on Wednesday. This is going to be an interesting one, so I hope you tune in for it. It's a pipe with a story, and it's something very, very different than any kind of restoration work I've done before. So it's going to be a challenge, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So please do tune in, and I'll put out that first video on Wednesday. So with that, like I said, I hope you're all having a good weekend, and I wish you all the best for the week ahead. I thank you all for taking the time out to spend a little bit of time and have a pipe with me here on the weekends. I really appreciate your time and your company. So I will say goodbye at this point. I want you all to take care of yourself and those close to you. And until next time, I will look forward to talking to you all again very soon. Goodbye now.